welcome to another hour of sanity. Right here on the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I am your host, Joe Messina. Again, thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend with me in the afternoons. Always appreciate the time you listen to the show. Hey, hop on therealside.com. That's therealside.com. And you can listen live, you can watch live, you can pick up the classic podcasts. Those are the older shows. Because even though we say old shows, it sounds really kind of crappy, right? Go get the old shows, like the old shoes. You know what I mean? Anyway, so what's the show about? It's about hot topics of the day, the week, where we try to keep the conversation that any average Joe, including myself, can understand. Real talk, real words, none of this politico garbage, because we do political garbage. I mean, you've listened to the show. We tackle a lot of political garbage, but we don't speak political because you really have to understand what it is we're talking about. Otherwise, you are wasting your time, and I'd be wasting my time, and I'm not interested in doing that. So check out the website, find out what the show's all about. You can find out what I'm about. Like I said, you can watch live, listen live. You can find out one of my favorite sayings is stop drooling all over yourself on the couch. Get up and do something. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, if you're standing on the aisle, you're out on the freeway, you need to do something. So call in, get involved in the discussion, 855-REAL-JOE. That's 855-732-5563. If you like the show, give us a like on Facebook. If you don't like the show, stay away from Facebook. Not a good place to be anyway. Send me a message during the show. You can send it to Joe at therealside.com. Always a pleasure, like I say, to have you along for the ride. A lot of good things coming up, a lot of good shows that are coming up. Just check out the website again, like I say, to check it out. You know, I knew I was going to do this. I've changed the poll on the website. Oh, I know what it is. I don't have to go looking for it. The poll, and you can take the poll if you hop on, where? Therealside.com. That's right. So you want to go there, and the poll now is, did the president hurt or help himself with the speech he gave over the weekend, with the business speech? Now, I'm going to leave that to you. I'll let you decide whether it hurt him or help him. Was he misunderstood? Did he really mean what he said with the actual words that he used? Anyway, I want to thank again my politically incorrect posse. You are sending me some great stories to deal with. Later on at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have the attorney for Michael Salmon on. He's the pastor that was jailed for having a Bible study in Arizona, right in this country. Apparently now it's against the law to have a Bible study in your living room or your home, which just to me is just outrageous, just amazing. And later on, we're going to have we're going to have Mark Henley on. He is an economist, a great CPA, and he's going to talk about the economic effect of Obamacare on the smaller businesses. You know, what we ever hear about is the big ones, but we never hear about the smaller businesses, the 20s, the 50s, the 100 person businesses, because they are small businesses. You'd be surprised how easy it is to get 50, 60 employees, especially when they're not all full-time or you've got a couple locations. You're probably going to fall over, but listen to everything I say before you fall over. I am now a fan of LAUSD Superintendent John Deasy. Oh, yeah, we should have had that. Should have that cartoon. There you go. That's right. LA Superintendent John Deasy is now my hero. Look, faced with a shocking case of teacher accused of playing classroom sex games with children for years. You guys know that I'm in education. All I hear about is how it's for the kids. How does one teacher in a school of 200 employees, how does one teacher get away with this for years? You telling me there was no hint, no nothing, no smell test for this guy? I am not, sorry people, I am not buying this. I know, like with some groups, there is a certain code among these groups. But when it comes to the kids, the only code this should be is to protect the child at any cost. That's the only code that should stand in a school district. So anyway, yes, let me... Okay, sex games with the children for years. The Los Angeles school superintendent John Deasy delivered another jolt. He removed the school's entire staff. That's right, wiped it out, cut it out like a gangrene arm. Gone, right? So the custodian, all the way from the custodians to the principal of the school, he smashed what he wanted to call a culture of silence. I am surprised that he was able to get away with this the way he did, but I think Joe Messina thinks this is a wonderful move and a good precedent to set. If you're not turning in a teacher for the kind of things that were done to these kids, You deserve to get the same penalty he gets. It's really funny how we always talk about how much we care. When it comes to tax money for our children, we always talk about how wonderful we have to treat our kids, okay? If you're in a getaway car for a bank robbery, what are you charged with? You're at least charged with something, right? An accessory? Right? These people said that they weren't going to say anything because, that's his business in his classroom. This is wrong. And we need to see more of these things happening. He says it was a quick, responsive action to a heinous situation. He said, we're not going to spend a long time debating student safety. Good for him. Good for him. One of the biggest school districts in the country. He doesn't care about what the union says. The controversial decision underscores the 51-year-old superintendent's shakeup of the lethargic bureaucracy at the nation's second largest school district. God bless this man. His swift, bold moves have, even if he's not religious, I'll still say God bless this man, or rock bless it, whatever they use. Anyhow, his swift, bold moves have wrangled some and won praise by others during his first year of leadership. Hired with a mandate to boost achievement in the 660,000 pupil Los Angeles Unified School District, DZ's become known for the 18-hour days that involves everything from surprise classroom visits to picking up playground litter, to lobbying city elite for donations and blasting Sacramento politicians over funding cuts. Well, he might be wasting his time there. He's also gained a reputation for outspokenness and brisk decision-making style, and he's been criticized for his heavy-handedness. This brought him a lot of criticism because there were innocent teachers that went too. You know what? I'm sorry, collateral damage happens all over the place. If those teachers really weren't involved in this, they can make their case, and I'm sure they can get a job somewhere else. Earlier this year, for instance, DZ ordered a substitute teacher fired after finding students just doing busy work. He says, I'm intolerant when it becomes to students being disrespected. He said in an interview sandwiched between school visits and meetings, I do what I think is right, and everyone has the right to criticize. You appreciate the critics, but you wouldn't get up in the morning if you listened to them. So doing what he thinks is right has put him in some unusual positions, such as siding with plaintiffs who successfully sued the district over closely protected teachers' union tenants, seniority-based layoff policies, and leaving out student test scores and teacher performance evaluations. Now, I know the teachers always scream that the evaluation test scores of the students should not be held against the teacher. If there's a teacher listening out there, it's 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. Call in. You know why? I don't understand this. You make a product. Please, I'm not demeaning the children, but hear me out. You make a product, okay? You're only as good as that product that you deliver. In other areas of education, when it comes to trade schools, when you go to college, when you go to these kind of schools, the bottom line is if you don't get a good education, when you come out of there and the industry finds out that you're putting out substandard students, they won't hire anybody from those schools. They won't even look at resumes from those schools. So it should be the same way with our children. If they're not moving through the system the way they should, we need to find out where they took a nosedive. There was an article I did last year, or I read about last year and did a show around it, which was it only takes one bad teacher to set a student back 3 years. It takes them 3 years to recoup from one bad teacher. You want to honestly tell me it's about the kids? Get rid of the teacher. I don't want to hear about the teachers' union rights. I don't want to hear about the teachers' human rights. I don't want to hear about how I'm going to screw up the teacher's family if they lose their job. Not interested in any of that. I'm interested in one thing, that child gets fair and equal treatment all the way through. And in some cases, some children need a little bit more help. But if you've got a lousy teacher, they're not going to be in tune to that, right? Anyway, I'll go on real quick. He acts on behalf of the kids. You can't fault him for that, said A.J. Duffy, the former president of the Teachers Union, United Teachers of Los Angeles, who now runs a charter school. Oh, that, I got to get that guy on. I got to find out why he went down that path. But there are processes. People do deserve fair and equitable hearing. People do, and guess what? Our kids deserve fair and equitable treatment. More on this when we come back. The LAUSD Superintendent, my hero, after the break. I'm Joe Messina, your host. This is The Real Side. We'll be right back.
They come back to parades, high school bands, and celebrations. We welcome them with open arms as heroes. Their tours of duty are behind them. Their challenges are not. Many will spend longer coming back from the war than they spent in the war, retraining, searching for jobs, recovering from scars, some visible, some not. Find out what you can do to help at welcomebackveterans.org.
It can be a little awkward when your friend tells you he's been diagnosed with a mental illness. But what's even more awkward is, if you're not there for him, he's less likely to recover.
I'm here to help, man, whatever it takes.
What do you got, little fella? What do you got there? Looks like someone's butt. They must have lost it playing with their kids.
We're back to listen to the real side, not the right side. Not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. Again, thank you for spending your time with me in the afternoon. I always appreciate it. Go ahead and give a check out to the real side. No, make a check out to Joe Messina, but check out the website at therealside.com. That's therealside.com. We have the chat room up there and running. You got a live webcam. You've got listen live, watch live. I mean, you can do anything you want pretty much on the website. You can ask all kinds of questions on it because we're tied into Google. It'll bring you the answers to whatever you need. I want to jump back on this, though. I'm really, like I said, I'm impressed. I'm not hopeful. Let's make sure we're clear on this, okay? I don't think he's going to be able to fix all the problems there, but I like the fact that the new LA superintendent, John Deasy, he went in and just closed the school down. I thought that was just wonderful. It was a great way to handle this. I think it sends a great shot across the bow, as we used to say, to make sure that people understand he's engaged, he's involved, and he's going to, for sure, above union, above payroll, above teachers, he's going to put the kids first. Now, I understand that some teachers get irritated when they hear that, and I understand that there's crazy parents out there that think their kids should get everything, anything, and they never do anything wrong. I get all of that, but that's not what we're talking about, okay? All things being equal, it's not even close to what we're talking about. So, like I said before the break, doing what he thinks is right is put him in some unusual positions, such as siding with plaintiffs who successfully sued the district, which I thought, hey, listen, here's the bottom line. If your kids aren't getting what they're supposed to be getting from the school district, and you've done the proper thing and you've gone through the proper process to make it happen, they still don't give you, it should hurt them in the wallet. That's where it should hurt them, because they're supposed to be about the kids. They're supposed to be protecting the kids. And as the school year was ending last month, DC was focused on hiring 80 new principals, particularly at troubled urban high schools. Some have called dropout factories. DC pushed 50 current principals to retire or transferred them as he aims to interview replacement candidates himself. Developing leadership is the cornerstone of his reform strategy. But listen, here's the key. He's hiring 80 new principals. He's pushing out principals. In other words, let's read between the words, okay? He has found 80 schlocks he needs to move on. 80 people who are keeping a chair warm and not doing what's right for your kids. This is unheard of. Okay, this is unheard of in this business. This does not happen like this. I mean, we'll get the guy on the show, I'm sure, at some point in time, but you know, he is trying to reform the district, and he should get all the support he can get. DC moves at a rapid clip, whether it's through the candidate list, his reform agenda, or in striding around school campuses. Keeping up with Mr. Deasy is a well-worn joke around the district. He is under a tight self-imposed deadline to get reforms in place in 4 years and see higher test score, graduation rates, and other education metrics within 8 years. The culture in this district has been talk, protest, argue, but not actually do, he said. The style has come up against him plenty of times. The school board president, Monica Garcia, applauds DC's speed. People are feeling very confident in his leadership. You know, people love this. I don't care. You hear from the loud ones, and when I grew up, it was always the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I think today the squeaky wheel should be put in a closet and left alone by itself, because it seems like the people who don't want to do the work, okay, the people who know that if they make enough noise, someone's going to pay them to go away, are the ones making the noise. The decent people who want to protect kids, you need to be coming out and screaming about this stuff. You need not to let it go to get what it is to make your kids keep your kids safe and moving through. Anyway, DC also has ordered principals to pull teacher misconduct files for the past 40 years, and those files are going to be under review by a special panel to determine if further action is warranted. Some 500 previously unreported cases have been forwarded to State Teacher Licensing Commission. Think about something. They were so afraid. They were working and operating like you don't tell on your fellow teacher, to the point where 500 kids. I mean, all right, I realize that these aren't all against kids, but ultimately, when a teacher's doing something wrong in the classroom, it's against the kid. Okay? So I think this is a great idea. Some of you may not agree with it. Some of you may think it's too hasty. Some think it's too heavy-handed. I don't really care, because you want to say it's all about the kids, that it should be all about the kids, to the point where the superintendent is holding those principals. Yeah, the guy who runs the boat, the guy who runs the ship, okay, he should be holding those principals accountable. So, you know, I've always talked about religious freedom. I've always talked about the issues that we've had in this country where we always erred on the side of allowing different religions. I don't care if it's Muslim, Jew, Christians, anything. We've always allowed them to exist. I don't even know what to call it, to practice their faith. Okay, and it's never seemed to be a big deal until recently. It's been getting worse over the years. Okay, and it makes me crazy, because we talk about how free this country is, but we're only free when the ones that are making, we're back to those ones that are making the noise with the party makers, you know, and all that. But we're back to the ones that are making the most amount of noise. And freedom is freedom. Doesn't matter who's making the noise or not. So again, like I like to tell you, I'm not the expert. I don't have a clue. But recently we had a pastor that was jailed, a pastor by the name of Michael, I think it's Salomon, and he's a pastor that was jailed for having a Bible study. Now, look, I know that bylines don't always cut it, but we're going to find out firsthand from somebody with the issues. I've got attorney John Whitehead, and he's also an author who has written, debated, and practiced widely in the area of constitutional law and human rights. Whitehead's concern for the persecuted and oppressed led him in 1988 to establish the Rutherford Institute, a nonprofit civil liberties organization that provides free legal services to people whose constitutional and human rights have been threatened, I'll say my words, trampled on. John, are you with us?
Hey, yeah, I am. How you doing?
Good, John. Thanks for taking your time to be with us today.
Thank you.
And thanks for taking this case on. You know, I've been talking a lot on the show about how it just seems like they've been chipping away at the rights of all kinds of religious groups. And this one in particular, why don't you give us a story as to what took place here? I mean, is it as simple as this pastor being jailed for having a Bible study, or is there more to it?
It's a complex case because the city of Phoenix, where he was jailed, has put out some information. Well, we countered. You can go to our website at rutherford.org and read the fact sheet. Basically what happened to him is he started holding Bible studies in his home about the year 2005. And supposedly a neighbor complained, and they have about a 5-acre property. And he lives across the street, believe it or not, from a public park, which is a big public park. It's quite noisy, but 15 to 20 people, whatever, would come into the home, and they would read the Bible and, you know, pray and whatever they did in the home, which they do in Bible studies. We've also defended Jewish home synagogues, by the way. Mm-hmm. But what happened here was the city of Phoenix told him he was in violation of their particular zoning law, and they wrote him a letter. And the first letter they wrote him said, Bible studies are not allowed to be conducted in your residence. So they were really clear what they were targeting. And basically, they wrote 3 more letters saying you can't do this, and he met with them, and they said, well, maybe if you do a different facility on your property. Again, he has 5 acres. So he went ahead and built a 2,000-foot facility. It's a small facility, and started having meetings there. And then they told him, well, if you're going to do that, you got to have sprinklers, handicap parking, handicap bathrooms, a lot of expensive stuff, which he said he generally agreed to. But then they said, well, that road that you have, that dirt road on your property, you have to pave that and put curbing in.
Hey, hold let me ask you just to hold that thought for a minute. We're up on a hard break. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side. Not the wrong side, but the real side. We'll be right back with the attorney for Michael Salomon, the pastor that was jailed for having a home Bible study. We'll be right back.
Fruit. What a tasty treat. Fruits packed with potassium and other nutrients can help keep your heart pumping strong during the game. And they give you energy back so you can take on the next activity. Can your food do that? Run, throw, think, eat better. Find out more at smallstep.gov.
I've smoked bud since I was a little kid.
The night before, I went to a rave and I was frying.
Yeah, I was addicted.
I used to want to kill myself, like, every day.
It's a slow death. That's all it is.
You chose the Santa Clarita Valley for quality of life, but you also need quality of health. In the last few years, Henry Mayo has dramatically advanced care for our maturing population, introducing life-saving cardiovascular services, achieving an advanced primary stroke center designation, receiving the highest cancer program accreditation, and developing new joint replacement and spine programs. In fact, Henry Mayo is now a Best Los Angeles Regional Hospital. Henry Mayo, helping ensure your quality of life through better quality of health.
Well, we're back. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side of the issues. I am your host, Joe Messina. Appreciate your time with me in the afternoons. Check out their website. Check out my website, therealside.com, where you'll find today's poll. I'm not going to tell you what that is. You've got to go there to find out. And we have a live chat room. You can check that out as well. You can get involved in the conversation. Because, again, I don't want to run this thing alone. You guys hop on the chat room. Help me direct the call or direct the conversation. If you want to get involved, though, you can do 855-REAL-JOE. You can call 855-732-5563 or send me an email to joe@therealside.com. I want to get back to my guest, though. We're talking about Michael Salmon. He's the pastor who got jailed for running a Bible study. And I never believe bylines in and of themselves. So we have his attorney on, John Whitehead. John, you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, before we went to break, you were saying that he only had 15 to 20 people originally, and he's got a pretty big piece of property, and they've asked him, or he agreed to build a 2,000-foot facility. He adhered to the codes and what have you, and then you were going on with he had to make some road changes or changes.
Yeah, they were going to make him pave the road, put curbs in. So he basically drew the line and said no, and went ahead and held his Bible meetings, and finally he was pulled into court and said, if you hold any more, you can't have more than 12 people, a judge told him. We don't know where even the prosecutor in this case is saying, we don't know where that number came from. You have more than 12 people, you're going to jail. Well, the next week, he got about 20 people together. He was arrested. They sent a whole squad, like 12 policemen, to his home. Rounded him up, cited him with 67 violations. They sentenced him to 60 days in jail. He's now in jail in the infamous Tent City, if anybody knows what that is.
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, he's in Tent City. He's out in the middle of a little desert area in a tent where he has to wear pink underwear, striped suits, no hot lunches. It's over 100 degrees there now. Monsoons are coming. Now, go back. And he was weeping to his wife the other night. She called me crying. He's in there with drug dealers, gun runners. This is a guy who held Bible meetings in his home. That's his punishment, and the prosecutor's pushing for more jail time, by the way.
Okay, so let's get down to what's going on, though. I mean, I've got a couple of people in the chat room that want to know.
Okay.
Did he try to skirt the law with the building permits, the city codes?
No, he didn't. I mean, if you go, again, it's a complicated case. You go on at Rutherford.org and read our fact sheet. In fact, we did a press release today on that. You'll read the real facts of the case. No, he didn't. There was really, with his facility, no, he did not do that. No.
Yeah, they're saying he filed a permit for a game room as opposed to what he...
Exactly, because there was no, under the building code, there was nothing for private residential Bible meetings or religious meetings. There was nothing for that. And he looked at the code, and that was the closest thing he could approximate, which was singing, playing games, and doing this kind of thing. That's the closest thing he could find. He actually got a permit, and the city knew this, okay?
Okay, so yeah, and he was moving at the request of the city, correct? I mean, hey, you've got to do this.
He wanted to pull this off. He wanted to have his Bible studies. Again, you're talking about a large piece of property here. It's where I live. I'm in a subdivision. My neighbor's 30 feet on each side. Not true. He had a big piece of property, and believe it, across the street's a public park. And nobody parked on the streets. His friends that came on the property and parked on his property.
And 5 acres, like you say, is a pretty big piece of property.
Pretty big piece of land.
Okay. So one of the other things coming down the chat room is they also received tax-exempt status for said property since it was coded as a church. Is that true?
No, that's not true. What he does, he has a religious prison ministry where he gives Bibles to prisoners and those kind of things. He got a parsonage exemption and he is an ordained pastor of that particular ministry.
Okay, so it's not a church.
No, and you can again. There are a number. Plus, if you have a parsonage, it's still considered a private residence. By the way, if you're a pastor or a rabbi or whatever. Mm-hmm. Again, I'll go back. I've defended home church synagogues facing the same problem. We had a big case in New Jersey where Jews wanted to meet on their Sabbath on Saturday, and the town said they couldn't do it and fought them tooth and nail. They even put a surveillance camera across the street to watch the Jews going in and out. Unbelievable stuff.
All right.
So I don't know what the movement here is, but you said earlier there's something going on here. Plus, these codes that Phoenix adopted are being promulgated by a group called the International Code Council. We're researching them now. They're going to spread across the country.
Yeah, I'd like more information on them too, because I'm seeing more and more of this. What appears to be, again, I've talked about it on the show before, religious persecution from a standpoint of Bible studies at the home. People, again, being thrown in jail or given citations for having 20, 30, 40 people there. You have family reunions that you get 100 people at your house.
Well, yeah, I do, but as the pastor's wife pointed out to me, they have regular Cub Scout meetings in homes.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's true,
too. In the same area, they have Monday night football parties with football. Every week, some people have them. None of that's covered under these codes. For one reason, under these codes drafted by the International Code Council, residential religious meetings are covered. And, if you think about this, if they apply this the way they're applying, you'd have to have exit signs in your home and sprinklers. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you would have to get a permit or make some changes anytime you had a large gathering there too, right? So
and here's the thing that bothers me. I'm a big private property person. If they can tell me, if I wanted 15 or 20 people in my home to meet once a week to talk about freedom, the Constitution, well, under these kind of codes, if they want to come in and say you can't be doing that, you're going to have to turn this into a commercial use building. I mean, it puts you out of business. You really don't have private property at that point.
So are towns adopting, or do you know of towns that have adopted codes where, like you just said, this is my piece of property, this is my home. You're telling me how many people I can have coming in and out of it? I mean, that's really what it sounds like.
We're researching that right now. I didn't know about this International Code Council, but supposedly this is the one that the city of Phoenix adopted. And the scant information we have so far is that other cities are adopting the codes. And here's the other thing. We elect our representatives to write laws and do things. They're not doing that. They're having private corporations. They're buying them from private corporations, which makes me a little nervous, especially after looking at this case.
It would make me very nervous. Okay, so let me. So there's a question from the chat room that says, would the same thing apply to someone who was running a business out of their home? Like she's saying, say she sold Tupperware or distributed meetings every week or distribution meetings every week. Was she shut down too?
Code, no.
Wow.
That's our equal protection argument in the case. In fact, we filed a writ of habeas corpus yesterday to get him out of jail.
What do you think the chances of that's going to be?
And we're going to fight. I'd just like to get him out of Tent City and put him in a normal jail if we can do that, because I don't. He should not be in Tent City. Which, if you don't know what Tent City is, folks, go on. You go on YouTube and take a look. It looks like a concentration camp.
That's Sheriff Joe Arpaio's place, and we talk about that frequently on the show. So, another question from the chat room is: does this law conflict with our right to assemble?
Yes, it does. That's one of our challenges: the right to freedom of religion, the right to freedom to assemble. Yes, it does.
But the argument on the assembly side has always been you never. All you need is a permit, or at least let the city know when you're having large gatherings on a regular basis. Hasn't the Supreme Court upheld the right of a city to not turn it down, but regulate it in some ways? Well,
out in the public on certain public thoroughfares, there are permits, but we fight those sometimes because those can be onerous. The flat fees it can be very, very expensive, and so we fought some of those cases, but not in your home, no. If I have to have a permit to have a dinner party. It's going to, and I have people over at my house regularly. I've had in my backyard 60 and 70 people.
Well, no, I think the point you made earlier, though. I mean, the Boy Scouts meeting, that kind of stuff. That's a big deal. If you're a den leader or a scout leader and you're having a meeting once a month, and you've got 30, 40 Boy Scouts there, you got a problem, right?
You got a problem under this code, and I don't have any problem with people having Boy Scout meetings, but. The thing is that it's our property. What we do in our house is private. If it's not private, then it's public, and it belongs to the government. So we might as well just say, hey. And here's another thing: they sent a private investigator into one of their Bible studies here. He lied and said he was a member of one of the an uncle or something of the family. They let him in, okay? And that was the only outside person that ever attended, but he came in and collected notes and reported on them. This is a government agent lying to get into their home.
It's just amazing to me. Okay, so look,
government run amok is what it is.
We've got about 90 seconds to the end of this segment. When we come back, I want you to take the other guy's side. I want you to tell me what the prosecution or what the other side, the city side, is saying about why this shouldn't happen, why it can't happen, and really why they put him in jail. Why are they pushing this hard from your point of view? Okay, if you've just tuned in, you're listening to The Real Side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. I've got attorney John Whitehead on, and we're talking about the Michael Salmon case. He's the pastor who was jailed for Bible study. You've heard me talk about this on the show plenty of times. You need to be engaged. You need to be involved. You can't be just sitting on the couch yelling and screaming at the TV set. It doesn't work. The TV set doesn't give a care what you think. Until you pick up your phone, until you write your emails, so you get off your butt, and you make sure the right people get elected, this stuff is going to keep happening. And I don't care whether you're religious or not religious, or you're not a Christian, you don't care about the pastor. It's going to happen to you too. It's going to happen to everybody. All right? So you need to get engaged. You need to get involved. Otherwise, you get exactly what you're going to get back exactly what you put into it. You see what's happening in California? In your state, the same thing could happen. You're listening to The Real Side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. We'll be back right after this.
Why do I call it a funny bone?
Why can't penguins fly?
Like a sea safety. Can we go to the moon on vacation?
If you think it's tough answering these questions, imagine the ones you'll get if your child is diagnosed with cancer. CureSearch.org can help. It's run by doctors and scientists whose research has led to an overall cure rate of 78%. You're not as alone as you feel.
Today I'm going to talk about Patty. Patty's best characteristics, she's stupid. Stupid and ugly. Everything she does is ugly. Watch her eat. Watch her stuff her face. Look at her. Greasy hair, dirty fingernails. It makes me want to vomit. Get a life, Patty. Thank you.
Drugs is a price on top of a price. You pay for it with money. You pay for something you could have had, and then you pay for it out of your life.
Heroin will kill you and crack will bring you to your knees. And crack brought me to my knees.
I'm going to stay with the program of recovery, and I'm not going to give up. I'm just not going to give up.
We're back. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but The Real Side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. Always a pleasure to have you on board with me. Listen, get involved in the conversation. Don't just sit there. Like I said earlier before the break, he's yelling and screaming and calling everybody an idiot or what have you, or saying, yeah, I agree. Get involved. Hop on the chat room, therealside.com/chat. Or you could just hop on therealside.com. You'll see the chat room. You can't miss it. If you don't see the chat room when you go to the website, you shouldn't be driving. I mean, that's how big it is, all right? You can check the classic podcast that we have up there, and you can go ahead and get involved in the conversation. We have a poll you can take. So get engaged. Start doing something to show, to get your blood pumping so that you can actually be involved in fixing some of these problems. And it's important. Things like this will show you how important it is that the right people get voted in. Otherwise, we're going to have more and more of this garbage going on. You have more and more guys like me on the radio talking about this stuff. This is just so common. I think this is common sense, and it's a problem here. Anyway, so, I've got John Whitehead. He's on. He's the attorney for Michael Salmon, his pastor who was jailed for having a Bible study at his home. We're hearing all kinds of, they're just people not paying attention to what's going on. We're hearing about how this guy, he wouldn't get permits to do the work, and he was blowing off the city, and these just aren't true statements. Right, John? I mean, he did do what the city wanted him to do right up to the roadway.
Yeah, here's what happened is that there's two basic code provisions. One, a residential permit code, and a residential code, and there's a commercial code. What the city assumed was, and they kept calling this a church use, if it's a church use, it comes under the commercial code, which means it's open to the public and those kind of things. Any public building would have to, again, for people's safety, a large building with a lot of folks in it, sure, you want exit signs, crash bars, and all those things.
Sure.
However, they didn't do a good job on their homework. This guy never opened it to the public. He never did any of that. It was a very small gathering, and for some reason they pursued that. If they would have pursued it under the residential code, it would have been an entirely different matter. But that's what they decided to do, and they're sticking to it, and they're very, very aggressive about it. So what we're doing is that we're getting ready to file a motion in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals on the constitutional issues we've talked about, the First Amendment, right to assembly, freedom of religion, equal protection under the laws. Plus there is a state law that they passed, which many states have passed, in the state of Arizona called the Freedom of Religion Restoration Act. And what it does, it says that if the government in any way interferes with religious freedom, it has to show a compelling state interest. But even if it shows a compelling state interest, it must carry out that interest in the least restrictive means possible. They have not complied with that law here. By jailing this guy and disbanding, he's got a wife and 6 kids. They're at home. We feel they haven't followed that law. So, but I think you're going to see more of this, so get ready.
Well, I agree with you. We've already seen more of it. We've followed a couple of other stories like this. Take the opposing side for a minute. You're sitting in their shoes. Mm-hmm. All right. What is their push to what appears to be to make an example of this guy?
I think they're making an example of him. What they're telling people in Phoenix is, don't do this. Get the permits, get the sprinklers, do everything we say to you, or you go. Or they wouldn't have put him in jail. There'd been an easier way to do this. I mean, the actual punishment here is 60 days in jail, and now they're asking for a longer stay in Tent City, 3 years probation, and that's over a $12,000 fine. So that's the actual penalty here for his Bible studies. I think that the only thing that I can see out of it after really studying the facts is that they don't want this stuff occurring. If you're going to do it, you better comply with all the commercial codes. And as the judge here, no more than 12 people in your home can meet for religious reasons. Which, if you have 13, what do you do?
I'm
serious.
You break it up into 2 studies. No, you're right. I've had more than people. Look at people today are trying to make money. Okay, so what do? They bring in so and so selling oils. This guy's selling weight loss product, right? He gets 25 people in his house. Are we writing him up as well?
Yeah, that's definitely commercial. We know that.
Yeah. So, who did a neighbor file a complaint, or was it the fellow that went in there and decided that?
There was supposedly one neighbor that complained. Yes.
Okay, so one neighbor filed the initial complaint.
Yes.
Is he a devout atheist, or was there any?
I have no idea.
I had to ask. Sorry.
And he may be sorry for doing that now because, like I say, where this guy's at, it's not a good place to be. And again, I think there would have been a better way. You know, if he is really violating some laws, and I'm not sure he is, and we're looking at it that carefully, a fine maybe, but the 60 days in jail, tough stuff, 3-year probation, and a really large fine, $12,000.
So he was given citations by the city.
Yes.
All right, and he technically tried to comply with each one of them, correct?
He technically tried to comply, and then they put him on probation and said no more than 12 people. Then he had another Bible study. Now,
okay. So that's
people go, well, he's a lawbreaker. Well, if the Constitution's in effect, he's not. See, that's the point. We defend a lot of people across the country who are told by, for example, policemen, you can't be in that public park talking to people, handing out literature. Well, they have a right to be there. So they go back to that park and take a stand, and they get arrested. Then we have a court case. And often we win those cases based on the First Amendment. See, so they're not really lawbreakers. They're trying to uphold the Constitution and their rights. But I think you talked about a little bit on this program, people are not engaged today. A lot of people aren't engaged. They give up easily. If someone waves their hand at them, they go away. Yeah. But, you know, the people that changed history, Martin Luther King, you can go down the list, they said, no, I'm ready to get arrested.
Yeah.
I'm going to make my point in court with you. So that's what I'm telling people. I'm telling people, here's what I'm saying to people. Go hold Bible studies in your homes in honor of this guy. Exercise your right to freedom. Don't be chickens.
We had 40 people in our house for Bible studies for quite a few months before we moved into a commercial area.
Well, there you go. And, you violated the law.
You know,
in Phoenix, by the way.
Can they retroactively come grab me, put me in chains, and put me in a tent city?
You would be in Tent City, yeah. You would get arrested if you defied the order. Yeah, if you had 40 people. Remember the judge in this case said no more than 12 people. I thought, well, is she basing it on Jesus and the disciples? And I thought, well, no, she couldn't, because Jesus would be the 13th person.
Yeah. No, we maybe she meant you had to put 12 in each room. I don't know. So
No, only 12 in one residence.
Yeah.
So Jesus couldn't meet with the disciples under this code
Right, have to have
on a regular basis.
two different meetings, yeah.
Yep.
So, John, where do people find out more about you? We're up against it. I want to give you a chance to give out the website and such.
Yeah, it's Rutherford.org, Rutherford.org, and you can go online. We have a lot of articles and have a Constitution section. You should read the Constitution section, folks, and find out what the First Amendment really means.
All right, John, thanks so much for spending your time with me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You've been listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. We'll be back for wrap-up right after this.
When someone abducts a child, they're not about to advertise it. But we will. Sign up at wirelessamberAlerts.org to get free Amber Alert text messages on your cell phone. Help put a child abductor out of business for good. Wireless Amber Alerts. A child is calling for help.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I want to know what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle.
The odds of a child being in a Broadway show are 1 in 11,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 166. The odds say it's time to listen. To learn the signs of autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
Do you know how much water you use daily? A typical Santa Clarita Valley resident averages 270 gallons every day. You can lower your water number with simple adjustments to your outdoor watering. Replace a section of your water-guzzling grass with California-friendly plants. Reduce evaporation by watering at night or early morning. And set your sprinklers to run for 2 short cycles to avoid runoff. What's your water number?
We're back. You're listening to The Real Side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. Hop on the website, therealside.com. Take the poll, get involved, do something, and I mean that. Don't just type in the chat room, but actually do something. You're going to see more and more of this garbage. Jason, flick your mic on there. I'm going to give you the ability to speak.
Uh-oh. That's dangerous. Hi, Joe.
How you doing, Jason?
So good.
Hey, good. I'm glad. You know, I guess you're ambidextrous from the mindset, because you're pushing buttons and you're on the chat room. You're pretty good. That's right.
I'm trying to do both at once.
So let me ask you a question. So if this guy tried to comply with the law, made an honest effort to.
Except for the one that he didn't, but okay.
Okay. Should he? Well, do you not believe that there are some code enforcement officials that get a hair across their butt? They don't like something, and they go to the letter of the law.
I think it's totally stupid that he got thrown in jail for something like this. Totally stupid.
If he really made an attempt with every citation to make it right, and then he drew the line.
Yeah. I agree with you. Now let me tweak you a minute, just for 10 seconds.
Like you never do before. Go ahead.
Can we refer to this gentleman as an illegal pastor? The same way that we refer to illegals coming into the country.
You could technically.
The illegal pastor.
He's having, by code, he would be having an illegal meeting.
Do you commit now to referring to him as the illegal pastor if you ever talk to him about him in the future?
If he makes it right, we can call him the legal pastor, can we not?
Yes, we can.
But see, unlike the illegals that keep coming over that you want to defend, all right, he made an attempt to at least go get the paperwork. They run from the paperwork.
The illegal pastor.
No, the illegals coming over the,
Whatever you say, Joe.
We don't need no paperwork, right? You know what I'm saying? You'll see the real side, not the right side, not the wrong side, but the real side. I'm your host, Joe Messina. We will be back tomorrow with or without Jason. We'll see.